Well, welcome everybody. To the folks here in the room, I apologize, I'm going to sit here, so I'm stationary for the group out in the field. It's my pleasure to be able to open up our second day of regional trainings. And we're broadcasting live from the Denver Health Westside Clinic. And the live stream broadcast is being viewed in Pueblo, Grand Junction, and Greeley. On the surface, broadcasting via live stream like we're doing today may seem simple enough, but look a little deeper and you'll find an intricate web of people that work together to make this happen and actually have worked for many months to actually pull this off. At the center is our communications coordinator, Linda Doolin, who's with us here today at the Denver site. She's the mastermind behind the production, and today she's our chief engineer. Assisting Linda is Vanessa Hodak, nutrition consultant from the state office here at the Denver site. And from Denver Health, Melissa McDonald and Ian Ludson is helping to support and help to coordinate everything for today. Supporting us out in the field, Brad Keel and Jill Kilgore of Sunrise are in Greeley, and Kathy Baker from the state office is at that site. John Sanchez, Chuck Lewis, and Kim Whittington of Pueblo are at that site, and Aaron Johnson from the state office is supporting them down there. Mike Knotch and Pat Stiles of Grand Junction are at that site, and Lynn Ireland from the state office is joining them. So hello to everyone out in the field. And last but certainly not least, a big thank you to all who coordinated registration and the snacks at all the sites. And thank you so much for taking the time to pause from your busy routines to come together to learn today. And what a busy week it's been for all of us in Colorado WIC. Of course, this week, in addition to these regional trainings, Monday, as you well know, was the release of Amendment 7 of the Compass application and the transition at the state office from one server platform to another. So it was a bigger deal this time than the releases that we've had previously. From all indications so far, however, the release has gone well. We're really excited about these latest enhancements to the system, and we hope that as you touch on those, which some will take a while because there's so many changes in this one, that you'll like the improvements and that you'll find they're helpful. So again, that was an awfully big milestone this week. And also, we did decide to roll those out during the week of regional trainings so that this week, at least some folks would be off the system at certain points in time to kind of give us a smoother transition. So we think that has helped as well, and we hope things continue to go so smoothly. Before I provide an overview of today's agenda, I'd like to share another bit of great news. The state office learned just a few days ago that we are the only geographic state in the country to receive this year's WIC Breastfeeding Performance Bonus Award. This award recognizes Colorado for achieving a 6.6 increase in the number of fully breastfed infants from FY11, fiscal year 11 to fiscal year 12, which was a 2.4 greater increase than the next ranked state. Yes, absolutely. This is a very significant achievement. For this, our program will receive approximately $500,000 this year, in addition to our money that we received for administrative funds to be used during the next fiscal year. We're now in the process of creating a strategic plan for use of that money to help build breastfeeding infrastructure statewide and support what's going on in the field even more than is currently. Further discussions will take place with the breastfeeding and peer counseling coordinators in early September. But we're really excited about this, honored to be the only state to receive this award this year. And personally, I just want to make sure that you understand my sincere thanks and congratulations to all of you for the fantastic job you're doing to promote breastfeeding and support mothers in their decision to provide breast milk for their infants. So please, another round of applause for all of you. Now let's look at what's planned for today. And again, we're very excited that we get to, as we said, pause from your daily routine to really come together and concentrate really on the topics of counseling and early childhood obesity prevention. Again, I think along with breastfeeding that there are many exciting things going on in our state that actually many other states are looking at too for examples and for some of the expertise that we're building here in our state. So it's, I think, great that we're able to do that today. So today, some of the things that will be the objectives or the learning objectives are how to apply coaching strategies when performing a nutrition assessment and counseling, strategies to help parents increase their children's physical activity. We're going to learn about early childhood obesity prevention messages and recent happenings in the recently created Wellness Champion System. So now, if you can all open your packet to the agenda, you can take a look and see what is planned for today. This morning, Nora Lynch will present ways to increase participant engagement. She will present information and then we'll break up into small groups. We'll do this twice with our morning break between the first and second set. We'll then break for lunch. Darlene Blackford opens the afternoon with her presentation, All the Right Moves. We'll take an afternoon break and then Tracy Miller will finish our day with moving obesity prevention ahead in WIC. Notice at the bottom of the agenda is information on how to complete the evaluation for today's workshop. It's only available electronically, either through the link or by scanning the QR code using a smartphone. You'll also see in your packet, I'm sure you've noticed by now, your very own WIC pen, a lanyard for your use, a page for notes, supporting materials for today's presentation. You should also have a copy of the latest version of the Rights and Responsibilities on hardstock, a component to all the policy changes brought about by the recent Compass release. Please feel free to recycle the one you were using last week because it is now out of date, and make sure to use a new one. So I think that about covers it, and so now it's my pleasure to introduce Nora Lynch. During Nora's professional life, she has been a WIC high-risk counselor twice at the Denver WIC program. In between, she became a certified well coach. It is the blending of life coach skills and the everyday realities of working with WIC participants that form the foundation for this morning's presentation. Nora? We'll make the switch here. Okay, it's seen on camera.
While Nora's getting the mic turned on there, I just also want to let people know what you're seeing here is the actual broadcast, so it may be slightly delayed because it's gone up to satellite and back down again. So don't be alarmed and don't think Nora is really slow at changing her PowerPoint because it's just waiting to go to satellite.
Thank you. Thank you. So can everyone hear me in the back? Okay, great. So good morning. I am so glad to be here and to see so many friendly faces. It's really fun to be back and to wish all of you a good morning. I think you seemed like such a lively bunch when I walked in. I don't know if we need to wake up, but let's do it anyway. We're going to be learning some really great counseling and coaching techniques this morning. And it's neat to think about how it's not just the folks in the room that are going to start to use these, but all across the state of Colorado. So why don't we go ahead and take a moment and just give everyone a big good morning live stream and welcome everyone that's not here in the room with us. So good morning, everyone. Live stream. Can we do that again? Can we do that again, I think? Okay, let's say good morning to everyone that's joining us via the live stream, okay? Good morning! Okay, all right, great. So this morning we're going to be learning a technique that's, I think is just wonderful, and it's called Appreciative Inquiry. And really, we're going to be talking about all the things that you see or don't see yet, up there on the presentation wall. So we're going to be talking about things like success talk and turbo goal setting and 2 minutes of fame, amplifying, taking off the expert hat, affirming. But really, what this means to you is learning about how can I get mom engaged in talking? How can I help her connect to health ideas and goals that she really cares about? How can I help her walk out of the WIC clinic feeling motivated and confident to do what we talk about in the appointment? And that probably, and here's our slide in the live room. Now, that last one probably sounds like I'm going to teach you how to become miracle workers, right? But in fact, you'll see by the end of the morning how very possible it is to help your WIC participant walk out of the clinic feeling motivated and confident to do what we talked about in the WIC appointment. Now, some of the things that make working with our WIC participants challenging at times is that they can be distracted, they can be resistant, they cannot be engaged. They come into your office and they don't have learning about nutrition on their minds, do they? They're thinking about the fact that the bus was late and they got to the appointment late, or the fact that they have a toothache and they need to figure out how they're going to get some dental care. There's a lot of things on their minds, and the focus is often on problems. And that is true not only for, and I apologize, I see we're having quite a delay here with the slides, but bear with us, we'll keep going. So that's true not just for our WIC participants, but it's human nature. Our brains are wired to focus on problems because there's a lot of survival value in remembering when something didn't go well and how you managed to survive it. So we tend to focus more on problems. We don't remember our successes as much, and that's why appreciative inquiry is going to be such a great thing to start doing with your WIC participants. Another important piece of this is that a lot of the time our WIC participants have had lives where they maybe haven't had a lot of success, and they don't feel confident that they can make a difference, that if they make a change, that it's going to have a good effect. And we call this feeling, when we do feel confident, when we feel we can make a difference, we call it self-efficacy. That's a word that really, the first 20 times I heard it, my mind just went blank. So you don't need to worry about the word self-efficacy, but remember it's the confidence and how that's something that a lot of our WIC participants are lacking. And we know that many of our WIC participants at times come into the office feeling overwhelmed by the difficult things in life. And that's why we're going to be focusing on appreciative inquiry in the first talk this morning. So I wanted to share a little bit of the information from the 2013 Regional Training Survey with you. And I wanted to thank so many of you filled out the questionnaire, and I just wanted to tell you how much we appreciate that. I was told it was a very good turnout, and I wanted to share a couple of answers from a particular question, which is, how does having a WIC appointment with a difficult participant affect you? Almost 2/3 of you said that I think that dealing with difficult participants is the hardest part of my job. About 2/3 of you. And again, about 2/3 of you said that this was true. I get frustrated because I want to help them, but I can't, or because they won't let me. So 2/3 of you are feeling this way, and that is what this training is really going to address. It's going to give you some techniques and tools. What do I do when I'm having a difficult conversation, a difficult WIC appointment? So the training is not just about how can you do better with your WIC participant, it's also about you. Because everyone that's in the room and everyone that's listening in on the live stream, we know is working out WIC because they have a big heart and they want to help. And it is so frustrating when you come into work with that big heart and then you find that you're not able to reach or connect with your WIC participant. So why am I the person telling you this? And And I'm afraid to talk because it sounds like we're having an issue. Okay, good. It sounds fine now. So why am I the person telling you this? And I know that many of you in the room know that I worked with you last year at Denver WIC in 2012. What some of you may not know is that I also worked at WIC, I hesitate to say it, almost 20 years ago now, in the 90s, for a couple of years. And what I found when I came back to WIC last year for the second time is that the interactions I was having with WIC participants were really different from the ones I was having the first time. And the first few months I thought, this must be because this is a new job again. You know how new jobs are bright and shiny when they're new. But after a few months I realized, it's not that the job is still fresh and new. It's because I'm different. And the reason that I was different is because I'd done that wellness coach training about 6 years previously. And I learned dozens and dozens of communication techniques, and then I used them year after year. I was using them at WIC, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. So it took months for me to figure out what was going on, but eventually I realized, hey, those techniques I learned as a wellness coach are making a huge difference in my WIC appointments. I remembered back 20 years ago finding that almost every day I would have one or two WIC participants that just seemed hard to talk to, and the appointments didn't go the way I wanted to, and I might leave the office that day feeling a little bit bad because I hadn't reached one or two people. By the end of the week, it might be 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 that I knew I could have done a little better. It was just, I wasn't reaching them. And I found when I came back last year, that wasn't happening. And I could probably count on one hand the number of WIC participants in an entire 12 months where I felt I should have done something differently, I hadn't reached them. So that's huge. 5 a week versus 5 in 12 months. And I thought, I really need to share this because it really, really makes a difference. And I really wish that I caused that slide to forward a little sooner. So I just want to do a very brief 25-second review of the history of nutrition and kind of training education. And we know that it's not enough to tell somebody how to do something, right? Those were the days. Back 20 years ago, we thought, all we need to do is give them the information, they'll make the change. It's just because they don't know. And then we realized, it's not just that. People need to be motivated. And that's when motivational interviewing became very popular, and rightly so, because it is so important. But there's one additional piece that you don't quite yet see. There's one additional piece that's really important, and particularly for our WIC participants. So a person can know how to do something, they can even want to do it. But if they don't feel confident that they'll be successful, they can still decide not to try and make the change. So it's that confidence piece, that little confidence boost that is so important, and that's what appreciative inquiry does. So appreciative inquiry, fancy word, what does it mean? Inquiry is just being curious and asking questions. And appreciative, what are we curious and asking questions about? We're asking about success. We're asking about things that have gone well for our WIC participants. And you can imagine the first time you do that, your WIC participant's going to be a little surprised, right? Because they're used to people asking about problems and what's not going right. We're going to flip that around, and we're going to see what happens when we start to ask our WIC participant about a success, about something that did go well for them. So what's so great about appreciative inquiry? It works in nearly all situations. You don't need to figure out a stage of change. You don't need to figure out if your participant is the right kind of participant to use this. It works with just about everybody. And although you're going to really see the magic with more difficult to talk to participants, it works really well with your wonderful WIC participant who's all energized and excited and talking to you a mile a minute. She's still going to enjoy having this become part of the WIC appointment. So it works for everybody. It's simple. All you need to do this technique is to think, my job title is now going to include being a success detective. That's all it is being a success detective and helping your WIC participant discover and then talk about a success that she's had related to her health, or her child's health or eating. Appreciative inquiry increases engagement and receptivity. Why do we want to increase engagement in a WIC appointment? We need to do that because when we talk to mom and do the nutrition assessment, we're trying to get that complete picture, aren't we? We're trying to get information so we can make the best decisions about where to go in the WIC appointment. Do we need to talk about a referral? Do we need to modify the food instrument? Where might we want to go with nutrition education? If mom is more engaged and she's talking to you more, you're going to get more information so you can do a better job and really personalize that WIC appointment. Why is another reason engagement is important is if we do suggest a referral, we want mom to be engaged so that she'll be more likely to follow up. And receptivity, you have wonderful things to tell your WIC moms about nutrition education, about breastfeeding, about all kinds of things. And how much better is it if mom is actually receptive and listening to you instead of being distracted or looking at her phone? So engagement, receptivity, so important for our WIC appointment. And there are lots of benefits for you as well. I mentioned that this talk today is not just about making things better for your WIC participant. If you begin to practice these techniques after a few weeks, a month or two, you'll notice what a benefit it is to you as well as you go through your workday. It's fun to do. You may notice it starts creeping in to some of your conversations at home as well. It works so well that you may start, as you practice at work, you may start, without realizing it, start to use appreciative inquiry with your spouse or your boyfriend or your kids. And I think that after you do this for a little while, you'll feel that you are reaching more of your participants, and that just feels good. For folks like you with your big hearts, and I'm not going to hit the microphone this time, those of you with your big hearts who really want to make a difference and help your WIC participants. So why do we have conversations with our WIC participants? Right now, the major reason, the major business reason, we have conversations, of course, to create rapport, right, and to have those nice human interactions. But the business reason right now that we have conversations with our WIC participants is to get that information from them so we can personalize the WIC appointment and do a better job and know where we need to go with the things that we tell our WIC participants. So it's to get information so we can do our jobs. I want to suggest a different kind of conversation that you want to encourage or begin to use, let's say, with your WIC participant. And this is a conversation where you spark an internal transformation in your WIC participant. You ask a question, you refocus your participant's attention on success, which is what we're talking about now, or on change, the change she wants to make, which will be the talk after the break. You help her focus on success or change, and you help her have feelings about that as she talks about it, and she experiences an internal transformation. So this kind of conversation will help your WIC participant feel more confident, feel energized by focusing on what's going well in the present, in the past. Will help her think about next steps from a feeling of confidence and hope. And really, it's all about that transformation that she has. Is it me?
It's your hair. Maybe move it down just a little.
Okay, so it's really all about your WIC participant having an internal transformation. And this conversation may only last 2 minutes in the WIC appointment. And the other conversations are still really important, and you're still going to have them. But this 2 minutes is enough to spark that internal transformation that she has that makes her more confident and able to be successful and do her goal. So now we've almost got the slide that's going to show you really the summary of this morning. We know that our WIC participants don't just need to know how to be healthier. They need 2 additional things, don't they? They need motivation, and we're going to talk about that later, and they need more confidence. So we do that by helping our WIC participant talk about success. When she does that, she's going to begin to have feelings of pride, confidence, and energy. You'll notice that in the office, she's more engaged and receptive to your health messages, and she'll leave the office feeling energized, empowered, and ready to act. So I think we're starting to get the idea here that the important thing is that mom talks, right? It's not us telling mom something. It's not us gathering information from mom. For this 2 minutes, the important thing is that we get mom or dad to talk about success. And what does that sound like? You might hear your mom say, your WIC mom say, you know, that's right. Last summer, we were going to the park all the time, and then she did eat her dinner really well. Or after you ask your appreciative inquiry question, and mom thinks about it for a moment, you may hear her say, that's right, you know, she did eat those fruits and vegetables really well when I made that yogurt dip. That's right, she was eating those vegetables pretty well when I made that yogurt dip. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a moment and imagine what it is like to be a success detective. So I want all of you to take a moment and imagine that you're about to start a new job tomorrow. And your job is to talk to people and help them remember and talk about their success. That's your whole job. That's all you do. Every day, you get paid for it. This is a job. You talk to people, you help them remember a success they've had and talk about it. That's your new job. So when you do that, you're looking for positive feeling, you're looking for signs of pride, of satisfaction, everything that a person feels when they've been a success or they've had a success. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read the 4 questions here at the bottom, and I'm going to pause in between each one, and I want you to think for just a moment how you would answer these. So what does it feel like to have a job like this where you get to talk to people and help them find success and talk about it? What's it feel like to have this job? How can you tell if someone feels proud of what they've done? Because that's your job, right? You're a detective. You have to notice when people are feeling that pride and satisfaction when they are remembering being successful. How can you tell? How do you think you're being useful? How is it useful to these people to have you come around and ask them to think about when they were successful and talk about it? And what is fun about this job? I think we have to agree that it's a little better than writing parking tickets, at least, right? All right, so I want to return to that second question because it's so important. And I'm going to ask the room, let's see if anyone feels like answering. How do you know? How can you tell if someone feels proud of what they've done? What do they do? How do they look? Smile. Yes, smile. Good. What else?
They sit up taller.
They sit up taller. Maybe they lean towards you a little bit. Perfect. That's right. What else?
They start talking.
Great. That's right. They're going to talk a lot more. There might be a little more volume in their voice, right? They might relax. You might see them relax. Smiling. Great. Those are all those signs. So now we're going to look at the qualities of a success detective. And of course you need to be curious. Of course you need to be curious and ask questions. That's really what it's all about. And there are 2 key pieces to this. And the first one is the hardest one. It's the pause. You must pause for about 5 seconds after you ask the question. I've got to tell you, even for coaches who've been doing this for 10 years, this is the hardest part. Those 5 seconds, it feels like an hour. It's that awkward silence. But this is where the magic happens. You need to give your WIC mom a minute or, not a minute or 2, but 5 seconds, right, at least. to think about a success she's had. We're not used to thinking about success. No one ever asks us, right? They just point out when we mess up. So she needs a few seconds to think about a success she's had, and we're going to look at the questions in just a moment. She needs a few seconds to think about the success that she's had and to start to talk about it. And I know WIC appointments are short, and you want to do as much as you can, but these 5 seconds are not the place to make up the time. All right? We need to pause and let mom have that thought about the success and then begin to have the feeling about it. The other piece that's so important here is that you need to be listening during this minute or 2 minutes that you're having this kind of conversation. We've all had that experience when you're excited about something, you're telling a good friend, and then you catch them looking at their phone, or they're glancing at the TV, right? You're so excited to tell them this news, and they're not paying attention. And what happens? That just kills the whole feeling, doesn't it? It kills that transformation that you are trying to create in your WIC mom, so she can feel that success, and she can feel more confident. So pause, 5 seconds, hardest thing you'll ever do, it's so important. And then listen with full attention while she's talking to you about her success. This is not the time to be entering a note on a computer looking for a nutrition ed pamphlet. Give her this little bit of time and really listen to her success. Another characteristic of a success detective is to be positive. And that, I think, is very clear at this point. We're not going to talk about problems. We're going to ask about a success. And remember, it's not just talking about the success. It's that feeling that comes when we really see in detail in our mind. We relive that success. So don't forget, after you ask the question and you pause, don't forget, we're going to learn a technique to help amplify that feeling and help mom really feel it, because that's where the transformation happens. And then finally, we need to believe in our participants. A success detective always believes that the person they're talking to has a success in there somewhere, and they just need you to help them find it. So we don't want to take no for an answer. And when we think about not taking no for an answer, it's really, really a great thing, because there are so many places that we can look for success. We can look in the present, and we can ask our WIC mom, for example, what are you doing to help Ben have a good appetite for meals? There's an appreciative inquiry question. What are you doing to help Ben have a good appetite for meals? And that's something that's happening right now. And you'd be surprised at how many times a mom will say to you something. She'll give you an answer. You might think right now, oh, my WIC moms, a lot of them, they're not really going to have an answer. They're not going to be able to tell me anything. That was not my experience. I found that almost always a mom could come up with a success in a fairly short amount of time. But just in case mom says to you, meals are a disaster, there's nothing good happening right now with meals. You have somewhere else to look for that success. So you can look in the past, and you can say to mom, can you remember a time when Ben was eating well? Can you remember a time when that was happening? What were you doing then? What was different? So if we can't find success in the past, when we can't find success in the present, we can always ask a question about the past. And at this point, you've got it covered. You're getting an answer from mom, either about the present, about the past. But I know some of you might be thinking, Nora, what happens if I still don't have a success? We can also look to the future, and we can ask mom, okay, it sounds like mealtime isn't going the way you like. Sounds like it hasn't been going well even in the recent past. Can you tell me what you want mealtime to be like? And that action of talking about what she wants to happen at mealtime will also help her feel more confident and more powerful. And a little trick or tip for you, if you have a mom who doesn't seem to be able to verbalize what she wants, remember, our moms pretty much can always say what they don't want, right? And what she wants is just the exact opposite. So if you hear a mom say, he doesn't sit down for his meals, and he doesn't eat his vegetables, and then he's asking me to make him something half an hour after dinner's over, right? All you've got to do is flip it around. So with Mom, it sounds like if he were sitting down for his meals and he was eating vegetables some of the time, and he had enough of an appetite to eat enough so he wasn't bugging you to fix him something later, you'd be pretty happy with meals. Is that right? And then you can get Mom to talk more about what she wants to happen. So we can look in the present, we can look in the past, or we can have Mom talk about what she wants to happen going forward. And all of these things will help Mom feel a little more successful, a little more confident. So now let's look at the particulars of an appreciative inquiry question. And they're really neat because what they do is they link Mom or Dad's action with a positive health outcome. So let's look at this question in a little more detail. What do you enjoy doing to help your child be active? What do you enjoy doing to help your child be active? What is this question doing? It's connecting the dots between something that Mom does and a positive outcome for her child. And she may not even have been thinking along those lines, right? She may not even have been thinking, you know, it's true, there is something I can do that will have this positive outcome for my son. I can help him be more active. So the appreciative inquiry question is great for increasing Mom's self-confidence. She'll be much more ready to tackle the goal that you set together at the end of the WIC appointment if you ask one question along these lines and help her feel more confident. I wanted to take just a moment to show you the difference between appreciative inquiry questions and some of the other questions that you see on the nutrition assessments. So I've got two examples for you here. What types of activities does your child enjoy? And I know that all of us who've been at WIC for any amount of time recognize that moms like to answer this question, right? It's got positive framing. They tend to talk more when they're answering this question than to other questions that might be on the nutrition assessment. And so this question is great because Mom likes talking about it. It gets her talking. But it is not an appreciative inquiry question because it does not connect the dots between Mom's action and the activities, being active, and the things that her child likes to do. So you see the difference. Appreciative inquiry question will help connect the dots between something Mom does and a health outcome. And that's why it helps build her confidence. The next question I wanted to show you, we see lots of these on the nutrition assessment. How is it being a new mom? Or how is breastfeeding going for you? And these questions are really important, aren't they? We don't just want to hear about the positive stuff. We want to hear about everything so that you can make decisions. Is a referral needed? Does she need to see the high-risk counselor? Where might you want to go next with nutrition education? So these questions are super important, and we're going to keep asking them. But they are not appreciative inquiry questions. They don't help redirect Mom's thinking to a success and help her feel more confident. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just imagine for a moment what's going on with Mom when you ask your appreciative inquiry question. So you ask your question, and then you don't forget to pause, right? You pause, you might count to 5 in your head. And while you're pausing, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happening inside Mom's head, okay? You're refocusing her attention from all those problems, all those difficulties, all those distractions, all that stuff she brought into the WIC appointment, right? When she was looking at her phone, she was giving you one-word answers. You're refocusing her from all that stuff that's in her head. And you're helping her pay attention to a time when she was successful. You're allowing her to relive a present or past success, or imagine a future successful outcome, and that helps her feel that self-esteem and feel that self-confidence and feel that positive energy. So all that stuff is happening in Mom. All that stuff in the yellow that you see on the slide, you don't have to do anything there. That's all happening in Mom while you're pausing for 5 seconds. Okay? The little pink boxes are the things that you need to do. So you ask your appreciative inquiry question, you pause. All that stuff happens in Mom. And then this next piece I'm going to talk about in a little more detail in the next slide, you're going to affirm to amplify that feeling that she's feeling. Why? Because we're not used to talking about success, and a lot of us are shy. And mom will give you an answer, but it won't be a long one. And she might even look a little anxious as she tells you about a success. Oh my gosh, somebody asked me about a success. So she may just be starting to feel that pride and really feel what it's like to be when she was successful, but she's probably not feeling it a whole lot. So we need to do one more thing. We need to help affirm and amplify that feeling so she can really have that transformation and feel more successful. So what does that sound like? You might say, that's great. I can see how energized talking about that makes you. Or, what a great idea. Look what a difference that made to your son. Or, wow, how did it feel when he was eating his meals so well? I really like this next one. I wish I could get my other WIC moms to do that. How is your WIC participant going to feel when you, her WIC counselor, says that to her? I wish I could get my other WIC moms to do that. Or, do you mind if I share that with some of my other WIC moms? I think it would really help them. Boy, won't that amplify that feeling of success that she is starting to feel? Tell me more, I put down there by the magic wand, because that is a beautiful one. Remember, we want mom to talk about success. Tell me more is a great one for that. And I want to say something special about the last two that I have here on the slide, or the PowerPoint, and that is, I can see how much you care about that. I can see how much that matters to you. What do we do if our WIC mom is really proud and excited and telling us about something she did that she thinks is a success, and it's actually not really a great thing to be doing? For example, what if she's telling you about her success and she's saying, you know, I give them 100% fruit juice with every meal and every snack. And you're thinking, what about the milk? You're giving them juice 5 times a day. You don't need to amplify or affirm incorrect information, but we can still affirm mom and her commitment to doing something good for her child, for example. So that's why these last two are great. They'll get you out of any situation where mom is talking about with a lot of pride or holding up as a success something that you know isn't a success. You can still say to her, I can see how much you care about that, or I can see how much that matters to you. Keep that positive feeling going, and then circle back and maybe gently correct a little bit of what she said she was doing. So I'm going to encourage everyone to think about what it would be like from this moment forward. The next time you set foot in the WIC office, imagine if you could give every WIC participant you see 2 minutes of fame with appreciative inquiry. We've all heard about the 15 minutes of fame and how everybody wants 15 minutes of fame in their life. Well, you can give your WIC participants 2 minutes of fame every time they talk to you by taking the time to do appreciative inquiry, asking that question, pausing, amplifying that feeling, and helping them feel more successful and more confident. So we're going to do a serious appreciative inquiry summary, and then we're going to do a silly one. All right, so this is the serious one. And I'll start talking. I know the slide isn't quite there yet. So we know, actually we haven't really talked about when to use appreciative inquiry. Really, anytime you have a WIC participant who's feeling distracted, who's not engaged, you can use appreciative inquiry and pull her in to be more present to the appointment. However, I'm going to encourage you when you're starting out to focus particularly on the nutrition education portion. So appreciative inquiry is great kind of as the warm-up band. All right, gets mom ready to go, and then you can do your nutrition education and she'll be listening. We know what appreciative inquiry is by now. It's getting mom or dad to talk about a success. And we know how important the pause is. We've got to wait that 5 seconds so that mom can think and feel during that pause. Okay, let's look at a few more appreciative inquiry questions. I know we haven't looked at very many so far. So tell me one thing you're doing to gain the right amount of weight during this pregnancy. Tell me one thing you're doing to make sure your son is getting iron-rich foods. Tell me one thing you're doing to make sure your daughter has a good appetite for meals. So is anyone noticing a theme here? Tell me one thing, right? It's perfectly fine to say to a mom, tell me what you're doing. But you'll find that some moms find that question a little too general. And they'll just get stuck. You'll get that deer in the headlights look. First, you're asking her to think about a success, and then you're opening up the door to many possible successes. It's too much. So if you have a mom who isn't responding to, tell me what you're doing to gain the right amount of weight during your pregnancy, you can narrow it down. And moms really respond to this. Tell me one thing. Almost every WIC mom can come up with one thing when you ask her this way. Let's look at a couple more questions. Tell me how you know when your baby's hungry and how he's had enough. I wanted to include this one because I know a lot of you are asking this already. You didn't realize it. You are already using appreciative inquiry. You're asking mom to tell you about her actions and how they positively impact her baby. So that's one you're already using. Yay, you. I want to also focus for just a moment on the last one. What makes you proudest about breastfeeding? This is really a shorthand, isn't it? An appreciative inquiry shorthand. We're not really stating mom's action, right? But we know mom is the one who's breastfeeding, right? Or we can ask mom, what makes you proudest about the meals you put on the table for your family? And it's implied. We know mom's the one who's, if she is the one who's doing the cooking and putting the meal on the table. We cut right to the heart of appreciative inquiry with these questions, which is that feeling of pride. What makes you proudest? Moms love to answer this question. What makes you proudest about whatever healthy behavior you're wanting to talk to mom about? Okay, so that was our serious summary. And now we're going to do a silly summary. So in order to set that up, I'm going to talk you through something. Appreciative inquiry helps our WIC participants, and then look at those little stars, colorful stars there, see differently, talk about success, connect the dots between their actions and a positive health outcome, and feel confident and energized. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you some hand motions for this. And we're going to do this as a group, and then we're going to see how the left side of the room does compared with the right side of the room. All right, so here we go. So appreciative inquiry, you can do this along with me, and we'll practice a couple times. Appreciative inquiry helps our WIC participants see differently, talk about success, connect the dots between their actions and a positive health outcome, and feel confident and energized. All right? So this is our little hand motion words to remember appreciative inquiry. So let's do it again, and I want to hear you start saying the words as well. Okay? Appreciative inquiry helps our WIC participants see differently, talk about success, connect the dots between their actions and a positive health outcome, and feel confident and energized. All right. So now we're going to do it again, and I'm not going to say a word, so you can practice the words, but I'll do the gestures so we can keep in time. All right? So here we go. Appreciative inquiry. See differently. Talk about success. Connect the dots between their actions. Feel confident and energized. Beautiful. That was lovely. So we're going to divide the line's going to be right here in the middle. And we're going to have the left side show us what they've got, and then we'll have the right side show us what they've got. Okay, so left side, I'm going to get you started with appreciative inquiry.
Between
Energized. All right, let's give them a hand. Okay. All right. And now the right side of the room, let's see what you've got. Okay, so appreciative inquiry. All right. That was beautiful. Good job, you guys. That was fantastic. All right, so we're getting toward the end of our talk. I want to show you just a couple more things. So I'm going to give you a short example of what the conversation would sound like in the WIC appointment, and then how it flows very naturally and nicely into nutrition education. So we don't have it yet. So as the WIC counselor, you would say, tell me one thing you're doing so Marisa has healthy snacks. Tell me one thing you're doing so Marisa has healthy snacks. And then you pause, right? And it takes Mom a couple seconds, but then she says, well, I give her fruit or carrot sticks sometimes for snacks. And then Mom stops. And you can see that she's not really feeling it yet. So you go ahead and you amplify. And you say, great, how does it feel knowing that with all the junk out there, you've been making the effort and taking the time to give her fruits and vegetables? And then Mom begins to smile. And she says, really good. It feels really good. Sometimes it takes more time, but her health is important. So that's how that would work. So at that point, Mom's smiling. She's feeling that you are noticing her success and she's feeling good. And it's a perfect time to go right into nutrition education because she's in the palm of your hands at this point. So what do? I'll give you two examples. One thing you can do is you can say, okay, so the snack time's going great. Is there anything else you'd like to start doing for her for meal or snack time? Very natural. We're building on the success. That went great. Is there anything else you'd like to start doing? Is there anything else you'd like to do more of? Or another way you could go with the nutrition education is to say, is there anything that isn't going as well as snack time that I can help with? So you see how that naturally flows. Do you want to do more of something that's going well? Do you want to add to it? Or maybe you want to talk about something that isn't going well as the thing that you just told me about. But either way, you're building on that feeling of success and confidence that Mom has. So the nutrition education often goes very well. Okay, so the final thing we're going to do is going to help you get ready for your breakout session. And in just 3, 4, 5 minutes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the breakout sessions. And we're going to do those in groups of 2 and then in 4. And we will not be reporting back after. And I always like to mention that for those that maybe get a little nervous thinking they might have to stand up and explain something or report back to the group. So we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be doing 2 activities in small groups of 2 or 4. And what we're going to do right now is get you ready to be able to do those. So I know what it's like when you have a whole day of training and no one really mentions between the trainings how those different concepts might fit together or work together. And then you're left, when you go back to your WIC office, to your WIC clinic, to figure out, well, how do I use that piece and that piece? So what I did is I talked with Tracy before the training, and we went ahead and we decided and figured out how we might introduce appreciative inquiry and how it would fit or work with the early childhood obesity prevention messaging that you're going to hear a lot more about later today. So that's what we're going to spend the last couple minutes on here. And I chose this message as the example. There's no power like parent power. Eat well and move more to care for yourself and your family. And there are 2 reasons that I chose this message. And one of them is, doesn't it have that beautiful sense of helping Mom feel more powerful, feel more confident, right there in that early childhood obesity prevention message, right? That talk about power, like no power like parent power. It really has that sense of appreciative inquiry right there in the message. The second reason that I chose this one is because the target is interconception moms. And we don't really have time during this training today to talk much about interconception moms, but I think we would all agree that when we think about our postpartum moms, when we think about our moms who are coming in with a 3 or 4-year-old, there's just so much to say and so much to do, right? Related to introduction of solids and snacks for the kids and talking about juice and breastfeeding. We really don't say a whole lot most of the time to mom about her own health. And so I wanted to show you something that Mandy from the state office put together. It's in your packets. She put together this handout that is perfect to use with your postpartum moms, with your interconception moms. You could even potentially show one of these to a mom with a 3 or 4-year-old who may not currently be on the WIC program. Because we know that half of pregnancies are unplanned, right? And the mom who's seeing you with a 3 or 4-year-old today could be in as a pregnant mom back on the WIC program in a few months or next year. So we don't have time to go over this handout in detail, but it's got some great points and some things to help moms start to think about their own eating, their own exercise, and healthy weight for themselves. And we did work in a few appreciative inquiry kinds of statements and questions in here, so it'll all work together and fit together very nicely for you. So now we're going to look at how appreciative inquiry and early childhood obesity messages could work together. And the first one I'm going to show you here is using appreciative inquiry first and following it with the ECOP message. That is just like the warm-up band. You saw an example of that already. You get mom all warmed up, she's ready to go, she's more energized, and then you talk about the message, and she's more willing to listen and to learn something from it. You can also use appreciative inquiry after you tell mom a piece of an ECOP message. If you just gave mom a bunch of information, what would we call that? That would be information dumping, right? We don't just want to, out of the blue, just dump a bunch of information on mom. We know that doesn't work very well. But if you decide that this mom might benefit from a piece of one of those ECOP messages, you can tell her a sentence or two that gives part of that message to her, and then follow it with an appreciative inquiry, or even a motivational interviewing question that we'll look at after the break. And suddenly, that information is personalized, and mom is thinking about how to use it in her own life. And then the third way that you can use appreciative inquiry with early childhood obesity prevention messaging is to roll the content right into the question. You can actually teach mom something just by asking a question, because appreciative inquiry helps mom connect those dots, right, between her action and some positive health outcome. So you can ask a question like, what do you do now that sets a great example for your child related to eating fruits and vegetables? And by asking that question, you've actually taught mom something, because you've helped her connect the fact that what she does sets an example, and it can have a positive impact on what her child is doing with fruits and vegetables. So just rolling a few points of the ECOP message into an appreciative inquiry question can work. It can be a wonderful, wonderful thing. And while we wait for this last slide to show up, I'm going to mention something that I feel personally about appreciative inquiry. And that is, I think of it kind of like chocolate. It goes well and works well almost everywhere. All right? Is there a bad time? Right? For chocolate? Not really. Is there a bad time for appreciative inquiry? Not really either. It works really well in almost every situation. So the last slide, and we're still waiting for that, is going to show you what you need to know to do the breakout session that's coming up. And it's going to show you how to pair appreciative inquiry with a piece of an early childhood obesity prevention message. And the piece that we're going to be focusing on is a supporting point to that message, which is your child learns by watching you take frequent walks and eat plenty of fruits and vegetables, and your child will too. So that's the piece that we're working with. So what kind of appreciative inquiry question could you ask that would roll some of that content into that question? What healthy choices related to eating fruits and vegetables does your child see you make? And suddenly mom's thinking, oh, that's right. My child is watching me. It does matter what I eat. And let's say mom answers, and then you want to go ahead and you want to amplify that feeling, right? And we saw that we can do that with affirmations. We can also do that just by reflecting back what she said to you. So you say back to her, broccoli, carrots, green peppers, squash. She just told you all the vegetables she was eating. So you go ahead and reflect that back. And then you say, such variety, that's fantastic. And so mom is starting to really feel it, right? And she's engaged and she's listening. And then you deliver a little extra piece of information to her. She's already doing well with the fruits and vegetables. So maybe you decide, okay, I'm going to give her a little information about that walking, right, that this supporting point mentions. So you say to mom, did you know that if you take frequent walks and choose to be active instead of watching TV, your child will too? There's no power like parent power. All right. So I know we've done a lot this morning, but you're going to get a chance to practice it now. So you're up. It's your turn. And there are two exercises that we're going to have you do. And we're going to have Vanessa go ahead and lead you through that. So,
okay, am I on here? All right. I don't have to stand in front of the camera here since they have their own facilitator out at the sites. So that's why I'm not going to be over there. So you have a chance to practice being a success detective. So what you're going to do is pair up. And you're going to have a piece of paper here that asks, what kinds of questions does a success detective ask? So, many did the 2013 regional training survey, and so you've answered similar questions. So you'll be prepared if you answer that survey. So you're going to, by doing this, so why are we doing this? So by doing this, you're going to see how it feels to be on the giving and the receiving end of appreciative inquiry. So you're going to be able to connect that positive action and work with your WIC clients. They'll be able to connect a positive action and a health outcome. So once you get started there, and we'll give you 2 minutes, and then I'll say you can switch, and then have the other person switch and ask the question. So go ahead and pair up and start that exercise, asking those questions. So what does it feel like being a success detective? You're asking the person a question, and then how does it feel answering and talking about your success?
Sort of touchy.
Did you notice that at all an elevated mood or more energy? So it feels good to talk about your successes, and it also feels good to hear about somebody's success. So it's benefit on both. It benefits both people. So we're going to move into the second exercise, and so this exercise is going to kind of connect the dots between these counseling techniques that we talked about, the appreciative inquiry, and then the early childhood obesity prevention presentation that we'll hear about later. So I'm going to hold up the second activity here. It's in your packet. It should have an ECOP message on the top that reads, healthy eating and staying active while you are pregnant matters for you, and your baby. So I'm just going to read the instructions here, and then I'm going to have you, it'll be in groups of 4, so just find another pair. So the ECOP messages are designed to help prevent early childhood obesity, which we all agree is super important. And we don't want these messages to fall on deaf ears. So you're about to see how these techniques you've learned so far can be used with your WIC participants to feel more engaged and receptive to these ECOP messages. So there's 3 questions, So you're going to want to do the exercise for each of these questions in your groups of 4. And you have about 10 minutes to do this, so go ahead, and then after that we'll take a little break.